Good evening, everyone. Again, welcome to this session of Philo online talk session. We'll be discussing about the topic of the journey to inclusiveness, and I'm Lim Hongji, your moderator for today. And tonight we are very honored to have Miss Liu Yiru giving a talk of how the National Theatre and Concert Hall in Taipei is pursuing its journey to inclusiveness. Okay, while waiting for everyone to log into the meeting room, I have some questions for everyone. Yeah, so any one of you here have visited the National Theatre and Concert Hall of Taipei, or in short, NTCH? If you have, you may put down one in the chat room to let me know. Because Malaysia is very connected to Taiwan, so I think many people has been there, right? Oh, that's quite a lot. No, okay. Wu Yuliang said, no, haven't visited yet. Okay, so quite a number of us have been there. Seems like NTCH has become a major tourist spot. If you have not visited the center, you may take note of all the details shared tonight, and maybe later we can visit Taiwan, then you may visit there as well in the future. And I have noticed there's quite a number of attendees tonight from the arts industry, and I'm sure you must have attended quite a number of performances or events all this while. So any one of you has experienced any issues with accessibilities or feeling inconvenience or had a bad experience during your visit to any performance venue? If you have this experience, you can let us know. You may put down one so that we can sort of ask you to share your story later. Yeah. So since there's some time left, I'll do a bit of an announcement before we start with the session. Okay, I will take this opportunity to let everyone know. Throughout the session, you are welcome to turn on or turn off your camera during the talk. But please make sure, please make sure that your microphone is muted in order to avoid disturbance to the session. And please bear in mind also, this talk session will be broadcasted live on Philo's Facebook page. So you may share the live video to your Facebook, or you can share it to your friends who might not be able to join us tonight. And because I think this talk session will benefit a lot of people, so do help us to share this out. And if you have any question during the session, or you have anything that you want to share with us, you may type them in the chat box, and our crew will compile them, and I will facilitate a Q&A session afterwards at the end of this talk. And if you would like to speak directly to the speaker during the Q&A session, you may use the raise hand button and unmute yourself during your turn. So almost that's all. Then let's begin. Okay, first of all, thank you everyone for attending tonight's art session, and thank you to Philo for organizing this talk session. Philo is a series of salon talk revolving the discussion of philosophies and humanities. It is also an art and culture exchange platform between Taiwan and Malaysia, organized by the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Malaysia and produced by the INSO Arts and Culture Foundation. And once again, I'll introduce myself. I'm Hong Ji, your moderator for today. I'm currently a dancer and the assistant artistic director of Dua Space Dance Theatre in Malaysia. Dua Space is a full-time professional dance company established by Mr. Anthony May and Mr. Aman Yap in 1998. So all along these years, one of our main focus areas is called Hand in Hand, which embed the idea of PHAB integration. PHAB integration means that we are integrating physically handicapped persons with body-able persons through dance. So we sort of combine two entities together to perform dance. And this idea of integrated dance form actually brought us to Taiwan in 2009. And that was the first time I visited NTCH. And later, we visited Taiwan a few more times, back and forth to work with a group of polio-infected hip-hop dancers in Changhua. So every time we set foot in Taiwan, NTCH is a must-visit spot for us to catch up some latest performances happening during that time. So, and in fact, Dua Space founder, Mr. Anthony, he worked with Cloud Gate Dance Theatre around the 90s. So he had the privilege of to perform in the theatre as well. So during the time of the visit, I was pretty impressed by the state-of-the-art buildings that host so many wonderful performances over the years. it has been even more enlightening when I found out that NTCH is adopting the idea of inclusiveness in their operation, making arts more accessible to everyone without discrimination. Generally, when we talk about inclusiveness, we might be thinking of building a tram or allocating special seats for wheelchairs, installing washroom for disabled persons, this so-called refurbishment of the art facilities are the agendas to make an art venue more accessible for the disabled communities. However, we have learned that NTCH has done more than just that. They have created programs with disabled artists, constructing audio descriptions for visually impaired to enjoy the performances, even it's dance, it's a musical, it's a traditional opera, and many more. So they have raised the bar, bringing the idea of inclusiveness to another level. That's why we have this session tonight, and we would like to listen more to learn from today's talk session. So before we get started, I'll go through a little bit about our speaker today, Ms. Liu Yiru. Okay. Ms. Liu is the General and Artistic Director of the National Theatre and Concert Hall Taipei. She used to work as Director Secretary and Deputy Artistic Director of NTCH, supporting to establish NTCH as Taiwan's first ever administrative corporation, while helping it to conform with the international trend and promoting Taiwan through arts. And she was working with several performing arts groups and educational institutions in Taiwan, including Cloud Kid Dance Theatre, Ju Percussion Group Foundation. These two are very familiar to our audience here in Malaysia because they have performed here before. And also Taiwan Art Administration and Management Society, and also Taipei National University of the Arts. So Ms. Liu has also spent many years in the public relations and media fields, and she is one of the few artistic managers who have comprehensive experience in enterprise, government, and academia. So now let's put our hands together to welcome Ms. Liu Yiru. Hi, Ms. Liu. You might need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sure, good, clear.
Okay.
How was your day? You are still in the office?
Yep, this is Saturday night, but I'm still in the office for this event. I'm very pleased to be here.
Yeah, I've just checked the program calendar on NTCH website. There's a lot of programs happening at this moment. So as NTCH continues to produce programs and host performances in the middle of this pandemic, especially when there's so many uncertainties and also possibilities of show cancellation, it must be a very hard time for you and your team. So how was it for everyone working under such situation?
I think we are getting used to this uncertainty now, I guess, because in May, we are in the most, I guess May is the so-called worst period of time, because at that time, it's the first time ever that we started to have like more than 10,000 yeah, the people getting the disease, and the number has just dramatically increased during that period of time. So at that time, we have a lot of people return their tickets, cancel their performances at that time, from May to May, mostly May. So now we are getting kind of used to this, and it seems we are getting back to a certain kind of normal. So show must go on. We still have performances every night, and we still have audience coming in. It's still hard. It's still difficult because I also have staff members getting sick every day. But we are getting used to it, and we know how to deal with that. We have experience from past 2 and 3 years. So it's a new normal, I guess.
Yeah, the show must go on even it's under such situation. Yeah, we live with it. Okay, yeah. So before I pass this sharing session to Ms. Liu, so one last reminder. So during the talk, if you have any question, you're welcome to raise your question in the group chat. Just type it in the group chat, and we will have a Q&A session afterwards. And we encourage you to unmute yourself during the session for a better interaction during Q&A. So feel free to ask questions and express yourself in the chat box. Okay. So now I'll pass over to our guest speakers, Ms. Liu, and sharing with you the journey to inclusiveness.
Okay, now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, now I'm going to talk about it's the journey of the National Theater and Concert Hall in Taiwan, as well as my personal journey to inclusiveness, or to the meaning, the true meaning of a theater. First of all, even though a lot of you have been here or know our theater, but I think I'll still take a little bit of time to introduce our theaters to all of you. First of all, we were founded in 1987. That explained a little bit why we look like Chinese palace, our building. And we have 260 staff members, and our annual budget is about $900 million per year. And we have two major buildings, and each major buildings represent, one is for theater. So we have a national theater, which houses 1,500 seats. And we, in the theater building, we have another black box experimental theater. It hosts about 180 to 340 seats. And then we have the other building, that is the concert hall. And the concert hall holds 2,000 seats. And also we have a recital hall for chamber music mostly, and it has 340 seats. And as you can see, this is the glimpse of how our inside of our theater looks like. And those are our staff members. A few key performance indicators. We have annual audience, I mean indoor audience, about 600,000 audiences, and we hold like annual performances around 1,000, but 30% of the performances were organized or hosted by National Theater and Concert Hall. The other 700, around 700 is higher for the other people can hire our venues for their performances. And the average box office of programs hosted by NTCH is around 90%. And government subsidy is around 50%. That is to say we have like half for $400 to $450 million that we have to make by ourselves. And we have a paid membership around 50,000. As the host had said, we are the first public corporation or administrative corporation in Taiwan. That means we have a board. And the Ministry of Culture holds this arm's length principle to National Theater. So all those operational decisions were made by the board members, as well as the artistic directors of our theater. In addition to our regular program, we also host around 4 festivals annually. The TIFA, Taiwan International Festival of Arts, it's our festival in the spring. And then we have NTCH Ideas Lab. It's more than, it's actually a very experimental festival. We are testing new ideas. So that's why we say it's a take a risk kind of festival. Then in the summer, late summer, we have NTCH Summer Jazz Party. It's a jazz, of course, jazz festival. And then in late autumn, we have a Artquake festival in the autumn. It's a new festival. It's a festival that we talk about important issues in our society. And sometimes it's a philosophical questions that we have to answer, or it's a question that we need to take on in our life. So before we get into the journey of inclusiveness, I want to share some video for those of you who have never been in our theater. So could you please share these? Okay, so that is our theater and concert hall. And then I will start talking about my journey, or the journey to inclusiveness of the theater. I have to say it's also a personal journey because it has something to do with my experiences in managing theater. I have been in and out of the National Theater and Concert Hall. This is my third time working here. Of course, this is the artistic director this time, but in 2004, I have worked in National Theater and Concert Hall for 6 years as
the secretary to the director at that time. And during that period of time, I have this strong belief that theater is a dream factory for the artists. So arts is the most important thing. Program is the most important thing for theater. And then I left and then come back in 2013. I came back for a year as the deputy director. At that time, I started to raise this question about what is the purpose of a theater in a society. We say program is the most important part of a theater, but not everyone have the chance to see a program in the theater. Then why and what is the reason that we get to use tax money from everyone to run the theater? So I have that question in mind, and I quit my job at the time and came back in 2018 as the artistic director. And that's when the journey really begins. In 2014, I worked in National Theater and Concert Hall as the deputy director. At that time, I had this question, the major question, why the society needs a theater. And then I got this chance to go to New York to take part in the ISPA conference in New York. And during that conference, I heard this theater consultant talk about the life cycle of a theater. He said, the theater must go through survival period, then go to maintenance period. That time, a theater must know how to survive, how to get audiences to come into theater. Then we must answer this question. That is, a theater, how can a theater become inevitable? That is the most important question a theater must answer. That is very, that almost worked like a sparkle to me to answer the question I had in mind. That is, why do we need a theater in the society? We need to become inevitable, but how? That is my question. Then in 2018, I got an invitation to Unlimited Festival in England. That is a very unique festival. It talk about how disabilities or arts can help disability people with all kinds of physical or mentally difficulties to come in to take part in the theater. And at that time, we are facing this controversy, which is wheelchair controversy in National Theater, because in the past, we don't have a lot of wheelchair, and the wheelchair is located in bad places. That is, they have like partial view, or sometimes they are not so easy to access places. And so we have been, National Theater and Concert Hall has been challenged as a theater for only a few limited people at that time. So that's a reason why I take on this invitation and go to see this Unlimited Festival, because I want to know what a theater can do to be really unlimited and open to all people. And in that festival, I realized I met with a few artists, and I listened to what they have to say about our theater. And then they told me, inclusiveness is not social welfare. That's how we usually see inclusiveness in our society. They say it's a human right. If people without any difficulties, physically or mentally, have the right to arts, as we always promote it, then why can they, with different conditions, can have arts just like us? So it shouldn't be something that we so-called normal people enjoy and had enough, then we share a little bit, we spare a little bit to those in different situation and condition. That's really, I mean, it's a truth, but we never thought about it that way. It's a shock to me, and I almost feel ashamed about ourselves. So I came back and decided to take on the journey. We already have a few things that we did in the past that push us to inclusiveness, but there are a lot more that we can do or we need to do. For example, we already have a lot of services, but can we do it to the backstage? We have do some modification to our hardware. Can we do something about software? And we provide services to the audience, but can we provide services to the artists? And also, of course, we know how to deal with visible difficulties, but what if there is invisible difficulties? What can we do about that? So we decided to start on small things, and then we realized that technology can help. The first thing we do is that we incorporate inclusiveness to the core value of National Theatre and Concert Hall. The core value of NTCH is inclusiveness, digitalization, organic communication, and limitless. And then we decided to set up a cross-departmental team. Instead of assigning a special department for inclusiveness, we decided to have a cross-departmental team for the reason that everyone can get involved. So no one can say, well, that's that department's job. It's not my job. It's everybody's job. So everyone from different departments, we have 8 departments in National Theatre and Concert Hall. So everyone has to propose what they want to do to become inclusive. And therefore, everyone must contribute some ideas, something they can do. And then they can root it in our daily operation. That's our idea. And it works because everyone has to contribute. So they have to really think about what they can do, even if that's only a small things that will do. So I want to show you some things that we have been doing in the past few years. First of all, the wheelchair seats. We used to have some wheelchair. They are seated in the second floor or places that it's not very convenient for those wheelchair users. So in 2016, we have this major renovation of our theater, and we put in more wheelchair, and also we put it in places that has better view of the stage. The main concept here is provide more options for those who are interested in watching a performances. In the past, we limit their options to those places that they have no other choices. The only way they can get into theater and enjoy a performance is go to that not so good area. And that's the only place that they can park their wheelchair. So after 2016, we put more options to the theater. Also, we have managed for those who accompany the wheelchair people to come in and enjoy the same benefit. And for those old wheelchair areas, those tickets are free. And for those new wheelchair areas, we sell the tickets for half the price. Also for those accompany seats, that's a law. That's a law in Taiwan. So that's how we did it. We did take out some so-called normal seats to put in more wheelchair. I know this is probably for some artist group, it's not easy because they talk about their box office, but since we think that it's a human right, so we are able to persuade them into this idea about having wheelchair is a human right for all of us. And then we put in elevators where there's no way for, in the past, there's no access from basement parking lot to the first floor where the performance take place. So we put in basement elevator as well in 2016. Of course, ramp in every entrance. This is the easy part, actually. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, we redo our library to make it more accessible to everyone. We design every entrance, every seats to the needs of those in wheelchair. So there's no stairs in our library. Everyone can get in, and including those who might not go to the theater for a performance, but they can still go to our library and enjoy our books or CDs or recordings, etc. And then we started backstage renovation. We put in ramp and make our rehearsal studio easy accessible because we are preparing to have more artists who have difficulty getting into the theater. I have to explain a little bit about our theater because it was built like 35 years ago. So the architectural is not meant for easy access. It's meant for beauty. The grand, how do you say that? The architecture is so grand, and the beauty is the most important thing at that time. So we have all kinds of stairs. We have all kinds of where there's actually no need for stairs, but we still have stairs just for the look of it. And so it takes a lot of work and takes a lot of time and money for us to almost renovate everything. So we put in easy access rehearsal studio because we know if we keep going, we are going to have a lot of artists who need to use this space. And we also have our first gender neutral restaurant. As I was talking to our hosts, we still got complaints about this, but I think there's no turning back. I mean, this is our society. This is how the world rotate and goes. So we have our first neutral, gender neutral society, restaurant. And then we put in diaper change table for in male restroom because there are more and more dads who are taking care of their babies. So that's what we did. And also we welcome guide dog. We once have this concert performances, especially for people who have guide dog with them. So this is very cute. And then we started to do those difficult policies. Audio description of performances. This is something that is not so easy to do. But we try to manage to have audio description for 3 to 5 performances per year. It takes a lot of time and takes a lot of collaboration from artists because this audio description actually change the process of program production. So we need artists to understand why we do this, and we need for them to take part in this so we can have a successful production for audio description. And happily enough, there are more and more artists who are willing to take part in this and help us in a way. And also they bring this to other theater when they're touring. And so more and more theater will know how to do audio description of performances. And it takes well, actually, it takes time and money, especially there are not a lot of teachers in Taiwan who can do this audio description yet. So we almost have to, it's an environmental thing. It's environmental question or difficulties that we have to deal with. This is difficult, but it's very rewarding when you do this. We once have this Peking opera performances that we do audio description, and the audience gave us feedback that you can feel really happy. I remember when a blind people whose daughter brought him to the performances, and after the performances he stand up and almost screamed to the other audiences that this is the best theater I have ever been to. So that's pretty rewarding for all of us. And even though it's difficult, even though it takes a lot of work, but we still do this. We also try closed caption. I have to say, closed caption is a bit of a challenge for us because in the audience, there are people who can see and hear, and this is for those hearing impaired audience. But for those who actually can hear, this has caused them some kind of difficulties, or they feel they have been disturbed by the closed caption. So this is the one thing that we are still figuring out how to do it more properly in the future. We have relaxed performances for everyone. Actually, this is designed for those who cannot stay in theater for too long. That is for those kids with autism, for those people with medical situation, they have to step out to take water or take medicines. For those who cannot stay for 2 hours, they have to go to the bathroom, to go to the restroom. Because in our normal days or in other performances, once you step out of the auditorium, they cannot come back. But for relaxed performances, they are free to go out and come in again. Of course, when you do this, the most important work is communicate with the artists. They have to know that those audience might not sit there quietly and do nothing. They make noises. Sometimes they get up and they move around in the theaters, and they are scared of the darkness. So we do not turn down, we do not just turn off the light, we leave light on. And also we provide headset for those who are afraid of loud noises. And also we provide small stress-free props for those who feel nervous about going into a theater to enjoy their performances. So this is a really performance design, especially for those in special needs. And then we found out that not only people with medical conditions that will go to relaxed performances, elder people or fathers, mothers with their kids, they cannot stay long or without making noises. So they come to these performances and feel at ease. That's what we are trying to do. Theater is for everyone, no matter what kind of conditions you are in. So relaxed performances is not easy because artists has to get used to the situation that people move around and make noises during the performances. But it's a very popular choices here in our theater now. We sold tickets for those performances as a normal concert or theater performances. People pay ticket prices for those performances. And they know what they will get from these performances, because the people sitting next to you, he might get up and go out and come back in, and people next to you can be young parents with young kids, and they will make noises. But it turns out really, really appreciated by those in special needs. And sometimes we get kids, like sons and daughters, bring their parents, elder parents here, because people with old age people, they sometimes can stay in theater for too long, and sometimes they just have to step out to take some water or stuff. And we are all happy about how this turned out. And then we designed guided tour for hearing and visual impaired people. As you can see, people here, they are wearing masks with a hole. It's a plastic hole on their mask. For some people who cannot listen, they have to see their lips to understand what they're really talking about. So this is sponsored by a corporation, a company in Taiwan. They produces this kind of special mask for people with special needs. And then we started to have AI transcribe and sign language interpretation in our press conference, major events, and sometimes we have workshop that we use sign languages interpretation and AI transcribe. We use AI transcribe because we don't have enough sign language interpreter in our society. Also, it costs a lot of money. So to make sure that we have this kind of services for almost all our performances, we have to get some help from technology. So we found this AI lab in Taiwan who is developing AI transcribe software and application. So we cooperate with them, and they provide us with the application that we can use for people, for our purpose. And we also developed this easy to read program book. Easy to read program is designed especially for those who don't use Mandarin as their mother tongue. People like mentally difficult people who cannot understand Mandarin as well as others. And also people, for example, from other countries, or people from get married and move in, immigrants who first come to this country and never can really speak Mandarin or understand Mandarin that well. So we have this easy to read program book. We use a lot of illustration, and we use simple words and phrases for them to understand what was going on easier. And this is the first ever in the world that we do easy to read program of a festival, because it's easier to do, for example, a guidebook, but it's never easy to do a program as easy to read. So this is the first time we did that, but it has been very popular. Easy to read guidebook. This is for those who want to visit a theater or a concert hall, but they didn't know the complicated words or phrases that we use to introduce the theater. And we use a lot of that jargon in our guided tour. So we have easy to read guidebook for those who have difficulty understanding what we're talking about. It takes a lot of time to produce easy to read. It usually takes about 3 to 4 months. We have a workshop first, then we have teachers and professors and social workers come in and help us. And we have to work with mentally challenged people, for them to proofread everything that we put down in the easy to read guidebook. Because if they can understand, then we have our job done. If they cannot understand what we are talking about, then we have to figure out a way to better explain and use much more easier language or phrases or words or sentences for them to understand the theater better. So this is hard work, but still, it's a pretty rewarding job. And finally, we have a dance performances by a artist, a dancer, choreographer, Zhou Shuyi in Taiwan. As you can see in this picture, on the left is a theater director who has been working in theater. He's no stranger to theater, of course. And then we talked to the choreographer about the idea of inclusiveness and how we hope to see performances that involved people with different conditions to present a work on stage. So they worked together and presented us with a dance performance. And as you can see, the choreographer has so-called the perfect body. He's tall, all his limbs are well functioned, and he's so healthy in a way. But the theater director on the left, he has to sit on wheelchair. And in this performances, they talk about how the wheelchair theater director deal with disability ideas all his life, how he can break through that and become a theater director. So this is really a touching piece of work. It is the first time we have ever successfully put on a performance like this. And we are encouraging artists to talk to us and present more or propose more performances like this, because it's never enough to provide just services. We need to have artists with different conditions to present us in arts that we are all the same. If we can enjoy the theater, they should be able to enjoy the theater as well. And in these past 2 years, we have been testing technology and to see if they can help us solve some inclusiveness difficulties that we are unable to figure out a solution. So we actually try personalized subtitle through AR glasses. It's not there yet because the glass is very heavy, but the application or the software that comes with the glasses has been able to let us have personalized subtitle. For example, the closed caption thing that I have mentioned, it was not so successful on stage. But if we put that in our AR glasses, then it has no problem that all people, whether they can understand Mandarin or not, or they have hearing impaired situation, they can always enjoy performances. But this is not there yet. The equipment is not as ideal as we expected because it's heavy. Actually, it's heavy. And when you put on that for over 30 minutes, you started to get headache. So we are still trying to figure this out, and we are trying new glasses that we can use in the future. So we have done a lot of the either it's hardware or it's software. And I think the major responsibility for National Theater is actually become a nationwide promoter. It's not enough for National Theater to become the only theater that promote inclusiveness. Our idea is that every theater talks about inclusiveness, and we want to share our experiences, how we learn and how we do in this journey. We can share our experiences. We can teach them, not shortcut, but method, how to accomplish this. And if more and more theater participate, then a lot of difficulties can be solved through our cooperation. Cost might be down a little bit, but people from different part of the country, then they can have easy access to theater. And then that's the meaning of theater, I think. Then, of course, then when we are talking about inclusiveness, then we have COVID-19 almost wipe out theater performances for a while. And then we started to ask question, what's next? After we talk about inclusiveness, and then we have COVID-19, it sometimes gives us some hint that we are not doing enough, or we are not seeing bigger picture. So that's what we do. We started to figure out how inclusiveness can really have an impact on the society. Then we realize if we talk about inclusiveness, we have to talk about sustainability. We have to try to make a balance between economic growth and environmental protection and social change. Because if you leave out any part of these three elements, then you get imbalanced situation, then nothing will last. Either inclusiveness or sustainability are here to last. Otherwise, what we have been doing or what we are doing will be meaningless. So we kind of take a bigger, we kind of go to a bigger picture and talk about what's next for inclusiveness. And then that's what we are trying to do. We are now developing our policies towards sustainability. And that it really includes talking about audiences, how we develop audiences, how we reach social justice through arts, and how we produce programs without destroying the environment. These are the goals from UN, I think, United Nations. And we are checking every standards that are proposed by United Nations to see if there is anything that we can sort of push ourselves or push the whole society to go forward, to take one step further towards that end results. And that's what we're trying to do right now. So we have been dedicating the past 3 or 4 years talking about inclusiveness. But I have to admit, I am still frequently asked, why are you doing this? You are a theater manager. Why can't you focus on producing programs? Why are you talking about inclusiveness? I still got that question now, and people think I'm not doing a right job. But for me, it goes back to the 2014 conference in New York. That is, why does a society needs a theater? What is inevitable theater? For me, that means influential. We need to make ourselves influential to all people, not just to people who are arts lovers. Actually, we need to convey this idea to all people rather than those limited amount of people. So we ask ourselves, can we be a proactive member of the society, and can we are we brave enough to challenge the status quo? Everyone is so used to what the theater means to them. They come here to enjoy a program. They do not necessarily want to be challenged. They do not necessarily want to share the auditorium with people with different conditions. But can we change that? Can we be brave enough and without fear that other people might attack us? And can we ask the difficult questions? Can we challenge the white elephant in the room? And can we become a social changer? Can we promote social change in our society? And actually, art is our most powerful medium. Theater is a place where arts take place. If arts talk about serious issues, if we use arts to challenge the status quo, what we have been so used to in the past, can it be the most important medium that help us change the society? That's our belief. And I know there's a long way to go and there's almost no ending, as I have talked to the host. If we back down a little bit, all the things that we have been doing or what we are doing will become meaningless. And people are trying to take the easy route. And we are not. We are doing this, we are taking the difficult path. And if we back down, if we let us go a little bit, if we go easier on ourselves, then we'll have more obstacles in front of us rather than an easy path. So it's a never-ending journey. And thank you for having me here and share my thoughts and what our theaters have been doing. But I have one more video to share with all of you. And if you can listen, please listen carefully because this is an audio description version of the video. So hope you enjoy it.
国家音乐厅门前，红西装女舞者时而融入前廊的巨大红柱，时而跳脱。国家戏剧院的排练室里，黄衣女舞者轻松摇曳骨盆，看着镜中的自己。地下室停车场，驾驶轮椅的舞者与站立在地板上的舞者搭起手，相互牵引。画面快速穿越一道又一道门，电梯门前4位舞者站成一直线，前后探出头。2座电梯同时开启，各1位舞者一胖一瘦，形成对比。音乐厅舞台上，1位舞者跳着街舞 wacking 的动作，快速地甩动双手。在音乐厅的大厅，一群舞者整齐的手部动作，1位舞者跳跃脱离，挥舞4肢，打散队伍。舞者跑上2侧螺旋阶梯。在戏剧院的冲顶上，舞者身穿银色风衣，头戴 VR 装置，伸出食指放在嘴巴前面。在控制室，2个舞者一面舞蹈，一面控制灯光。舞台上1位扎马尾的小男孩跳着街舞 locking 的动作，一个转身面对镜头变成同样扎马尾的成年舞者，仿佛看见男孩长大的样子。观众席上2位舞者双手撑在椅背上，身体飞跃了起来。不同风格的舞者齐聚在舞台上，结尾的画面是从舞台看向观众席的风景。文字笔画一一组合浮现，在古典域造未来潮。国家两厅院。
Okay, so that's all. I do have to explain a little bit because I saw I saw one of the audience asking why there's no subtitle for the video. Well, actually, we have tried to, reach putting too much goals in one performances, and that's a total failure. So we choose one for example, we have audio description for this film, then we don't have subtitle. And there's no way that you can cover everything in one film, so to speak. Okay, that's all.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Liu, for the wonderful sharing. Yeah, we have really, you have taken us on a journey to take a look at how National Theatre has done such an amazing work along these few years. What are the things that you have imposed in the theatre? How you make things possible? I know it is definitely not an easy job, like we have been discussing earlier before the session start. So there's no easy way, because we tend to select the easy way to do things, but then it might not be so impactful. But then we have to persist on doing the right thing. So that's why I think National Theatre is now on the road of constructing something new. It's actually a very new policy for Taiwan, and it's definitely new for Malaysia as well, because we are still in the midst of the state of building ramps, refurbishing our theatre to accommodate more seats for the wheelchairs, and installing these toilets and washrooms for the disabled people. But then these are only the first phase of making the theatre more accessible, but there's so much more that we can do. Yeah, I remember talking to one of my friends about the idea of relaxed performances after I've gone through the info given, and some of them are the response are very extreme. Some are highly accepting, some are highly disagreeing. So I expect the same response from the audience and also from the crowd in Taiwan as well. And I thought such a good thought and good idea will be easily accepted by everyone, generally accepted. But so when we talk about it, then that's the very extreme response that we're getting from people. So how's the audience responded to the relaxed performance that you have imposed in the theater?
I can still remember the first time we have this relaxed performances. And after the performances, one of the audience come up to me and tell me that those people are not supposed to be in the theater. So, and she said, I'm a teacher, so I know this is not meant for them. And I'm kind of really in a shock. I say, if you are a teacher, then we are all in trouble, because this is so how can you say that? I mean, there's no way that you can imagine an audience of arts can think that arts is only for those who have like everything function normally. So but then happily enough, we don't care about what she said. We also get some feedback from our Facebook pages. Indeed, there are few people still think that you shouldn't do a lot of relaxed performances. We want normal program, and then we have to block those voices out, because we know we are doing the right thing. So we pretend we didn't see them, and we keep doing our relaxed performances. And now we have, and happily enough, we have title sponsors for our relaxed performances. There are people in corporation world who realize what we are doing, so they support us financially. And then we have 5 or 6 relaxed performances per year. I know it's highly not enough, but we'll get there in the future. It takes time. It takes time and energy because every preparation is different from what we are so used to. As you say, getting back to what we are used to do is an easy path. It's easier for us because we know how to produce programs for those who can hear and see, but and who can stay seated quietly for 2 hours. But it is not the real society. We are composed by a lot of people with different conditions. So it's well received. People are happy, and we have been recognized for that, because a lot of people recommend people with different needs to come to our relaxed performances, and not only people with physical or mentally condition. People with old age people, they enjoy our relaxed performances very much. So we have a lot of people bringing their parents to come to the theater.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's actually putting inclusiveness to another dimension, that we put in this idea into the consideration when we arrange the performance. There's another question, a continuation on this relaxed performance. She was asking, Maggie, was it? Yeah, she was wondering if your ticket prices for relaxed performances are different than the non-relaxed performances?
All our relaxed performances are a little bit cheaper when we are talking about pricing strategy, because we tend to make these performances a little bit shorter in time. So it's not a 2-hour performances. Usually it's an hour long performances. So we pricing it a little bit cheaper.
Understand. Wow. So, and also, I remember doing some productions in the theater as well, because there's parents who came with their infants, children who are very, very little, they still have to carry the baby when they're watching the show. But then, according to the general policy, they should not bring their infants to theater. But then, when it comes to a consideration that taking the heart of appreciating the arts, the parents will to appreciate the arts, even though she's not so convenient at the moment. It's actually very touching that she's willing to come to us and approach and see, is there any possibility of letting her into the show? So what we did here was that we arranged a seat at nearest to the entrance. So once there's any response or any cry out from the baby, she can directly move away from the audience seat. So that's how we try to accommodate also people in the theater, but we cannot afford to hold a performance solely with a relaxed performance idea. So because the theater costs are very high here in Malaysia, but then but we were trying our best to accommodate more people, those who are willing to come and approach arts. Yeah, and we have actually started.
We also have one service to young parents with young kids. We actually hire not really babysitter, but rather people with the ability to teach young kids. We set up a place in our lobby, so they can interact with the professional teachers for kids that we hire. And then the parents can come into the theater and enjoy the performances. They leave their kids outside with the professional teachers. And when they finish watching or enjoying the performance, they just pick up their kids and go home.
It's our nursery.
That kind of services. Yeah. That's for, because theater is for everyone, including young parents. And as you know that young parents usually drop out from theater because they have to take care of their babies. So that's what we are doing. So if you have like really young kids, bring them to relaxed performances. If you want to see a performances but you can't find a babysitter in that time, you just bring it to the theater and we have someone to take care of that for you.
Wow, I think that's sort of a compensation of how people responded to the relaxed performances. That's another solution for you to choose. That's another question here, but it's a little bit complex, so I might break it down into different parts. There's an audience asking, can you share a little more on the process of implementing new policies or reconstructing spaces? Like I imagine there might be a lot of things that you can work on. So how are priorities sorted? So how you choose which to do first and which to do next?
Basic are the most the first to solve. For example, the ramp. the wheelchair area, the easy access rehearsal studio. Those are hardware. For me, hardware is the easiest part when you talk about inclusiveness, because it just takes money and takes time. And even though well, time and money sometimes is a lot of difficult. It really is difficult for a lot of people. But for me, I think that's the easiest one to solve. Then we started by implementing services, because services doesn't usually require cooperation from artists. So it's a bit easier. We do a lot of services first, and then we started to talk to the artists about inclusiveness, and we show them what we have been doing in the surroundings and what we have learned from other countries' experiences, and then brainwash them for for why we are doing this. So persuading artists to do that is the most difficult part. So we do it when we do the other easy part first. After that, then we talk to the artists. It's easier for the artists to take that in, in their production. So that's how we did it. Fortunately, as we talk about, we are not government. We are not the official government organization. We are public corporation. That means we have flexibility in terms of our budget, in terms of our annual work plans, or what we want to do in that year. So we kind of have this flexibility in determining what is most important and what must be done first. I don't know if that answers the questions. Yeah, we do the easy part first. So.
yeah. Like Malaysia, because we, yes, you go on.
One of the easy and difficult part is communicate to the staff. First of all, I make them realize that I'm not letting go of this. I will not back down from these policies. First of all, I need to make sure that they all understand this. That's why we put that in our core value. So everyone has to know our core value, and they realize that this is something that we will do for a long period of time. And we also talk to the whole staff in a few occasions and tell them that I won't back down. Once you make clear that this is something that you will do and you want to do, and then people will gradually follow. That's what I think, because we do have occasions that people ask me, why are you doing this? There's
all
no
the questions.
Yeah, why? And why can we focus on what we are so used to do? And people are not buying those tickets for audio descriptions, but we still spend a lot of time and money on that. Can we stop now? And I do get that from my staff. So I just have to make sure that they understand that this is not going away. This is what we will do.
Yeah, that basically answers the question also, because there's a question of asking that before an idea gets the green light, how would the team know? So you have done an explanation just now. And the last thing that are there any pre-launch surveys or trial periods that involves the targeted audience as well as the general public when these policies are actually imposed through real actions?
Actually, every policy that we do or we try to do, we have a consultant. We have an artist who is handicapped. We also work with associations, communities of those, for example, people with wheelchair or people with mental conditions. We work with them. We work with schools who teach blind people or teach deaf people, hearing impaired people. We work with the schools. We work with those communities or societies or organizations. We work with our consultant. I do have one consultant who has helped me a lot because, the thing that she said to me is that you just try, you just do it, and then we will feedback. As long as we know you are trying to solve the problem, we are appreciated enough because no one has ever really tried that before. So it's try and error process for us as well. As I said, closed caption is a disaster for us. And we have to figure out a way to solve that problem. But it's try and error. And we are lucky enough that those people know what we are trying to do here. So even though there are people still challenging us why, but we get a lot of good feedback. So, I mean, that's enough for me.
Yeah. We can't sort of please everyone out there. So we choose to do what we think is right to do. So we persist, we insist on that, and people who acknowledge that, who values it, will come and sort of work together, put their hands together to work things out.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. That's exactly the process that we have experienced. So true, that's what happened.
Yeah. Coming back to the thing that we have been talking about, the audio description. I think a lot of people are very curious because we have seen a video just now, sort of a demonstration of how an audio description is happening during the performance. But I'm very curious of how the preparation progress is going on. Because from your sharing just now, you mentioned that the team have to start working on the description and all the preparation 3 or 4 months in advance before the performance starts. And so can you elaborate a little bit about the process, how the audio description is constructed?
Okay. There are special teachers who are responsible for writing script, and they also have to, because it's a live services. So when the performance is on stage, they have this microphone and headset that he will talk about the program when it's live on stage. So the teacher needs to know exactly what happened on stage. That's why it takes 3 or 4 months in advance for the teacher to get ready. The teacher needs to read the scripts and go to rehearsal studio with the artists to know how they rehearse. The teacher needs to have the picture of what's going on when it's really on stage. So he needs to go to the rehearsal studio and work with them and observe what's going on there. And then the teacher will go home and write script. He has to kind of calculate the timing, calculate who and when is going out on stage right now. So it's a calculation work. And then he will come home and modify the script and then come back and to see if it fits the timing of the performances. So when he really go into the theater, it will match what he said. Because when when actors are talking on the stage, he has to figure out a way, the teacher needs to figure out a way to not interrupt what they are talking on stage. And the teacher has to squeeze his script in between lines so people can hear what's been said on stage and what's been said by the audio description teacher. So the process, the most difficult part of the process is to rehearse with the artists along the way. So it takes a lot of time for the teacher and especially and also for the artists, it's in the past it's easier for the artists to like they rewrite everything and we do everything 1 month or 2 weeks before the performances. They change things a lot because they want to be perfect, so they change things until the day they go on stage. But if you have audio description, that means you have to set things like that and no change. Otherwise, the audio description has to like rewrite everything. So it's hard for the artists because it means they have to work in even and prepare everything even like months before, like compared to what they are used to. That means they have to move things a lot earlier and cannot change after that. So that's a big challenge for them.
Yeah, I understand because I'm from the dance background as well. So we understand the creative process, how directors, how choreographers work with the dancers. But then when such things comes in, they will have to sort of move everything forward. But then creators, they tend to change things here and there a little bit, swap things over along the process. Even it's sort of a so-called fixed version, that tends to change things in between of that. Yeah. But then with this idea come in, they cannot change things. They can't simply change things. But then it's really a tough task for the teacher because the teacher himself is sort of like an director assistant. It also takes in part of the stage manager's scope of job of show, and then there's a lot of rehearsal assistants all in one, so they have to sort of take care of everything.
Yeah, indeed, that's the most difficult part.
So I was curious that at the beginning, how did the National Theatre select the program to start with this audio description? How do you know which to do audio description with?
First of all, we dance is the most easiest part because there's no talking in dance performances. So dance is always easier. So we always have dance performances, and we choose artists who has a bit open-minded about what we are trying to do there. So they are open to the idea of inclusiveness, and he is the artists who are open to challenge. For example, that we just mentioned, that he has to like move every process forward. Choose artists is also very important, and we also it's well, actually, the success or failure of the choice is usually on the artists. Whoever those artists who are able to cooperate, usually they take difficulty as a good challenge, and they are willing to solve those problems with us, to figure out a way to solve those problems. And that's how we actually choose programs or artists. Artists is very important. We need to look for those artists and talk to them, and they are 100% into this. Then we can do this. There's no way that you can force them to do this. Otherwise, they'll just feel that they have been tortured.
Understand. I can imagine the process of how does a team negotiate and talk and describe the process to the artist. And some artists are very open-minded, but when it comes to the actual execution, there's so much more to overcome. So the spirit of taking on challenges is very, very important. Yeah. So then following up with the Q&A session, if artistic spaces in Malaysia would like to start working on the inclusiveness, what kind of changes would be a good place to start from your experience? So maybe from your experience, what can we start off with? For example, maybe a theater in Malaysia would like to include also inclusiveness in their development. What would your advice be?
Well, actually, before we take on this journey, we have a workshop for artists with disability. We have Kendoko coming here and brainwash all of us and to tell us how to do this. And I think the most important thing for me is having this cross-department team to lead the inclusiveness policies in our theater. So sometimes good ideas come from really small things. We didn't start by, adding a lot of audio description, by doing this really hard questions, because if you choose those really difficult policies, then it's easier to fail in the beginning. We do this really tiny small things by changing the size of words of our printout, the program printout, because in the past, like all those art editors want to use like really small words, and for the beauty's sake, the words are small and like print in gray or light brown. It's beautiful, but it's hard for a lot of people to read, especially for those visual impaired people. It's no way they can read our program. So we just do this one little thing by enlarge every words and make it pitch black, not light brown words. And then we put a lot of information on the internet, because we were told that visually impaired people rely a lot on their mobile phone, on computers, because they use some of the computers or mobile phone can read. There's a system for them. They can read what's on the screen. So we put our program on the internet and using that system, and then the visually impaired people can listen to our program without having to have like taking a look at the real printout. That's the first small thing that we do. It's very easy. It only takes not so much work. It's a huge success. People are happy. And then we got confident saying, so it doesn't have to be like really huge, grand project. It can only by starting in the small places. For example, the program is one thing, and like welcome guide dog, that's easiest part of this whole policy, because you just open up and then they are free to come in and sit there and enjoy the show. It's so easy that you don't even need a person assigned to do this. It just happened. And people are happy about this. So I think you don't have to choose the most difficult thing as a challenge in the beginning. You start by doing small things, and after you successfully do the small things, then you can go gradually to the more difficult ones. And then people will realize what you are trying to do. People will take on the journey as well. That's what we are doing here in National Theatre and Concert Hall.
We can never know, we can never predict, but a small seed that we planted, it can grow into something so grand, so big. It can start giving benefits to the others. It can start influencing the others. So starting with something small, planting a seed like what we did today. We have Director Liu sharing her experience with us. All the ideas are very new for us in Malaysia. I think even in many parts of the world also, it is a very new concept, but then we start planting this seed in everyone, and we will never know how big the tree will grow. It might grow into a forest, and it might really generate a lot of benefits for a lot of people. Yeah.
I want to mention one thing. Don't overlook the power of staff. I mean, small things exist in our daily operation, and they are the daily operation people. They know what they know their customers, or they know who they are working with. They know exactly what kind of small things that we can do to change. So all I have to do is support them to reconfirm that we are on the right track. All I have to do is that. So the power of the staff, that's something we should never overlook or neglect, because it exists in their mind, their hearts.
Great. I think almost time now, but then we have two last questions, small ones, one small one and one big one. Okay, there's an audience asking, since audio description is performing live, so is there any chances in the future live translation to overcome language barrier?
Well, I will always say that it's possible. It really is possible, because in Taiwan, the society is changing, because we have a lot of new immigrants from different countries. They come and live in Taiwan. So you cannot say that you only want to provide programs to certain people, or just that little amount of people. You just have to open up. So I will say it's going to be difficult. We are trying this AR glasses that I show you, even though it's not 100% successful trial yet, but we are thinking about we can have like subtitles of different language for people who speak different language. For audio description, it's going to be tough. We can try to figure out how to provide other language audio description, but I have to admit that it's a bit difficult though.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. It just takes time.
Yeah, I understand. I believe that as well, because we in Malaysia, we have all sorts of different languages. Everybody speaks different languages. So that's why we have difficulties also trying to achieve this sort of a standard procedure for a language barrier-free language communication. But we are still trying after so many years. Yeah. And one last one, I think this is the one that is a little bit grand. So what's the one thing that you wish to improve next in the inclusiveness journey?
Still, I think we need more artworks. We need more artists to participate in this journey, not just take part in the service part, the audio description, or all those guided tour or everything. That's mostly service. But I think what really can because arts is so powerful, we need artists to realize that they can contribute a lot on the inclusiveness of a theater. It's a human rights situation, and artists is the best kind of people who can speak through their arts about the importance of human right issue. So if I can make a wish here, I would wish that more and more artists are willing to make programs or produce programs to talk about inclusiveness, or have those artists with, or actors, dancers with different conditions to take part in performances, because that's really a powerful statement on stage. That's a very powerful statement. It's much more not much more important. It's important when we have all the services ready, and then we need to look up to the stage and see what the artists have to say. And that's, for me, that's my wish, and I hope it'll come true.
Yeah, I truly believe they need to be seen, to be put at the same position as everyone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes. Oh, a friend of mine jumped in with a very, very last question. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
No problem.
She asked that, what are your views on, for example, disabled person or neutral divergent people watching non-relaxed performances, especially when there's already relaxed performances ready for them. So they choose to attend the normal performances instead of the relaxed performances. But what are your approach about this?
Our ultimate goal actually is to make inclusiveness disappear. I mean, when we talk about inclusiveness, because we know we need that. And why we need that is because we don't have that. When we are in a society of real inclusiveness idea, that is the society we don't have to talk about inclusiveness. So ideally, I think that people with all kinds of conditions can get to choose what they want. In the past, when we don't have relaxed performances at that time, we do have people with conditions coming into our performances. What we did was that we will ask for their permission to tell people around them that this person, this audience, have a certain conditions. So he may make noises unwillingly, or he may not sit still for the whole 2 hours. And we ask the audience around this particular people to understand this. And usually what we have encountered is that people are understanding. When you inform them there are situations like this, most of the people, most of the audience can understand. But for people with the condition, sometimes we need to consider if they are easy during that performances. That's why we have relaxed performances, because some people are unwilling to take part in the so-called normal performances. So we do hopefully in the future that people with all kinds of conditions get to have options at their own free will. But before then, we need to provide more a different scenario for them to choose. And that's my take on this.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think my friend is very happy. She's been typing that. Okay. So before we end today's session, any last thing that Director Liu would like to share with the audience, or your conclusion about this, Sherry?
All I can say is really, I have repeatedly said, starting small. We don't have to go to the most difficult part in the beginning. And just choose something that you can easily accomplish starting there, and rely on staff. That's the reason why we can go this far, because it's not because of me. It's because my staff understand this and they are willing to take on the journey as well. And that's how we get there. That's how we get to this stage. And don't back up. Don't back down. Don't give up easily.
That's the spirit. Thank you so much. Thank you again to Miss Liu for the sharing. Yeah, it was really an inspiring session. And I think National Theatre and Concert Hall of Taipei has done a very good job in promoting this idea, sort of letting people know that it is possible despite of all the difficulties. And it is something that we should, every one of us, not only theatre practitioners, every human being should embrace this idea of inclusiveness. And there's one last thing that I would like to promote. I have recently found out that National Theatre has actually organized a sustainable and inclusive arts conference back in January, earlier this year. And they have recently posted the sharing videos on their YouTube channel a few days ago. So during the conference itself, they have organized a lot of sessions inviting theatre directors, festival directors, and also some theatre practitioners from all around the world to share their approaches of incorporating the ideas of inclusiveness in their theatre operation and programming. And there's also a session where artists and production team members sharing their experience and demonstrate how they actually work on the theatre's approach of hosting services for persons with disabilities, conducting accessible guided tours, for example, touch tours, sign language interpretation, and they even curated something for people with learning disorders or mentally disturbed persons. And they also provide these audio descriptions during the performances. So there's a lot of sharing online available. So I think we should, if you're interested with the topic, I encourage you to look for the videos that are on their YouTube channel. And National Theatre and Concert Hall of Taipei, they are truly putting the idea of inclusiveness at the core of the center's visions and also missions. So, and I think the most touching part of tonight's sharing is that Ms. Liu mentioned that she hopes that in the future that we don't have to raise the issue of inclusiveness anymore, as it could be transformed into a common culture, a norms that everyone has the same right, not only in arts and cultures fields, but also in all aspects of humanities. So it is a very tough journey, but with everyone putting their efforts together, it is possible. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us tonight.